So good to see everybody here this morning. We're glad you're here. We have several visitors with us today. If you're visiting with us, thank you for coming our way. Be sure that you go to our visitors center in front, our guest central. We have a gift for you, and we want to get to know you. Stick around after services for a little bit so we can kind of meet you and get to know you a little bit better. And maybe you can find out if you want to know some information about the church here, that we can give you that as well. So if you're here visiting with us, we have a great gift, by the way, that we're going to give you if you're visiting with us. So go up front. You have to fill out that visitor's card at our guest central, and they'll take care of you there. I want to say I didn't get to preach last Sunday, so I didn't get to talk much about the Thanksgiving meal, but we did a fantastic job. Those that took care of the Thanksgiving meal, and you just don't know the difference that you make in a lot of people's lives. And I know some people question sometimes, well, why do we do this? I mean, why are we doing this? Why do we send it to, we send it to the people in jail? You say, well, the county already furnishes that for them. Well, they do. But they need to know that there's people out there that love them. And then we do it to other places. I got a letter here I want to read to you that we just got. It was sent out the 28th. It says, to the church, we inmates in pod 528 at the Cumberland County Justice Center would like to thank you for giving us the Thanksgiving meal for Thanksgiving. You all took the time and the patience to provide this for us, and we are very thankful. Please continue to keep us in your prayers. And it signed everybody in that, the inmates in that group there sent this to us. Last year, I don't know whether y'all recall, but last year we got another thing from the jail. There was an inmate that was in jail, and the reason he was in jail, he got caught trying to break into our church building. He got caught trying to break into the church building. Actually tried to throw a brick through the window in the Kids Street Live area, and he got caught, was taken to jail. The sheriff hand-delivered him the meal. And he said, you know that place you tried to break in? They wanted to tell you Happy Thanksgiving and gave him a meal. He said the guy cried. So, what an impact you make. I love that the sheriff personally delivered that meal, by the way. But he took it to me and said, those people that you were trying to break into, they want you to know they care about you. And we do. And whether people needed it or didn't need it, or whether, every box had a little sticker on it that says Lionary Church of Christ. Every box had an advertisement for the upcoming event that we have with Inky Johnson. And it's a great way to reach out. So just know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. That the least little thing you do, even a cup of cold water in His name, will not go unrewarded. So remember that. When you get to questioning some of that, remember that. And remember how good God is. I love this time of year. This morning we're going to begin a series, a short series, maybe 3 lessons, on It's Time for Christmas. And I know when I say those words there that it speaks panic to some of you. Because when I say it's time for Christmas, you think it's time to shop. It's about things that need to get done that haven't gotten done. There's gifts to buy. There are gifts to wrap. There are things that need to be put up. There are all kinds of things that need to get done. And we got to do all these different things. And sometimes it sort of comes and goes, and it doesn't work out the way we wanted it to go. My question is, what kind of Christmas are you going to have this year? Now, the goal of this series is to make this year different maybe than in the past. You may have had a good Christmas, but I'm telling you, it could be better. You may have had a bad Christmas, and you're thinking, oh man, it's going to be the same this year. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be better than it's ever been before, because the true news about Christmas, whether you like it or not, is the good news of what God has done. That is, He sent His Son. And the difference, that's what makes it different than any other season. And it ought to be the best season. This month we're going to think together about some choices that you and I can make, and that we can enjoy it better than we ever have before. I cannot get this thing to stay up like it ought to. But I want you to look at this year, and we're going to talk about this year about it's time to share the good news. But before I get into the lesson, got a little short video I'm going to play for you.
Dear, we write this letter for which you have been accepted to the... Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Hannah, you gotta see this. Look at this. Okay.
Congratulations! Thank you.
Start from the beginning. Plus everything.
Okay, so...
You gotta be kidding me. It's great. Hey, come here. You gotta listen to the story.
I have something to show you.
So we're going to talk about it's time for Christmas, and today we're talking about the fact it's time to share the good news. It's a choice to share the good news because really the core of what this season is about good news. Everything else about Christmas is just decorations for the celebration of what God has done in bringing Jesus Christ into this world. That is the real meaning of the season. You know, it's easy for us to limit our talk about good news to this location. What a great time out there to share the good news. What a great time when people are thinking as never before in this particular season to share with people what it's really about. Now, if you miss this, you miss what Christmas is about. Look at what happened. I call you to the first Christmas. In Luke chapter 2 and verse 10, it says, "But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news.'" Isn't that awesome? "I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people." Good news. So when the shepherd went and checked this out, what did they do? They found the baby Jesus. Then in Luke chapter 2 and verse 17 it says, "And when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child." That's it. That's what the good news is all about. Someone told them, they went and they checked it out, and then they went and told everybody else about it. They were so excited about what they had seen, what they had heard about the good news. They told it, and that's what Christmas is all about. That's one of the joys of Christmas, is the joy of telling the good news. Now maybe, well not maybe, we have been guilty of treating Christmas kind of like we do grace. We spend a lot of time telling people what it's not. You know, isn't that what we do with grace? We in the church, we tell people what it's not. It's not, you know, it's not this and it's not that. But really, the same thing goes with Christmas. A lot of times we spend a lot of time telling people what it's not. Well, we don't know when Jesus was born. No, we don't. Well, we don't know. You know, the Bible doesn't tell us anywhere that we celebrate Christmas. Let me tell you something a little bit about the culture in that day, by the way. If you're going to do everything about the way they did it back then, you shouldn't celebrate your own birthday because they didn't celebrate birthdays. There's nothing in the Bible ever says anything about anybody celebrating a birthday. Period. And the reason was, in their culture, they didn't celebrate birthdays. They just didn't. By the way, that's not unusual. When we were in Russia, they didn't celebrate birthdays like we celebrate birthdays. When one of our children had a birthday, you know what they would do? They would congratulate us. They realized those kids didn't have nothing to do with that anyway. And so when the kids were, when one of our kids would have a birthday, literally they would bring Gayla and I cards congratulating us on our children. Isn't that interesting? So we, in our culture, though, celebrate birthdays. It's just one of our things in our culture. So why in the world, and again, now we celebrate, say, well, the Bible talks about celebrating his death, and we do that, but you can't have the death without the birth. And there is an awful lot said in the Bible about Jesus, about how he would come into this world and who he would be and where he would come from and where he would be born and how he would be born and all these different things. And you know, and it's great news. I mean, that's what he says. It's great news. Most people want to share good news. I mean, who wouldn't want to share good news? So what gets in the way? And how do we get it out of the way? That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about some things that I can do to celebrate and to share the good news, because it is time for Christmas. And because it's time for Christmas, it's time to share the good news. You're trying to figure out, well, okay, what's it all about? There's some people here that are they're part of it. Some of you have already experienced the good news of Jesus Christ. Some of you haven't, and you're checking it out, and you're trying to figure it out. The truth of the matter is, you probably noticed that the same thing I noticed before I became a follower of Jesus. When people try to tell me the good news, there's two types of people. One of them is kind of the salesman type. You know, he's kind of slick. He's got a slick presentation. He's got all these things. He's smooth. He's slick. He knows what it's all about. He's got this thing. Basically, I didn't like his presentation because it's almost like he's trying to sell me something. You know what I mean? But then there's people that I ran into that they kind of, they wanted to tell you about it, but they were kind of a little nervous. Didn't quite seem to have, get it out. But you knew it was really important to them. A lot of us are like that one. You feel like you want to talk about it, but you get the news out, but you really want to, but you don't know how to do it. You start sharing it. You're nervous about it. Really, that's the person I want to talk to, because they're trying to overcome something, but it's so important to them that they got to tell it. But I want to tell you how you get started with this. How do you get started sharing the good news? Well, first thing is, I must enjoy it myself. I'm not going to get to tell the good news unless I enjoy it myself. If it's not, people are going to know whether I think it's good news. Look back at me what the angel told the shepherd. He says, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Here's the question. How does good news become great news? Well, good news becomes great news when it becomes personal to you, when it's something that affects you, when it's something that's happened in my life. I mean, it would be good news if you came to me this morning and you said, guess what? I got an unexpected $5,000. That would be good news, but I'm going to tell you, if it happened to me, it'd be great news. That's the difference. You see what I'm talking about? Christmas is about great joy. The great joy in my life is that Jesus Christ has brought me forgiveness for all the things that I've done, but not only all the things that I've done, all the things that I will ever do. I don't deserve that. He gave it to me as a gift. The great joy of Christmas is that I had no hope, but now I have hope. Hope not just in this world, but also in the world to come. I have hope. Hope that puts in perspective whatever may be happening in my life right now. A hope that lets me know that, you know what, this is not it. The good news that becomes great joy for those who become followers of Jesus Christ is that now, not only do we know that God sent His Son, but not only do I know that He sent His Son, I have a relationship with that Son. Isn't that awesome? Talk about Him, I can talk to Him. Not just know that God is there, but I have a relationship with Him. I mean, I can talk to Him. I can listen to Him. I get direction from Him daily in my life. His Holy Spirit comes to confirm His presence in my life. That really is really good news. That's the good news worth enjoying and telling. And I need to enjoy that. The Scripture tells us in Psalm 107 and verse 2, in the Message translation, by the way, that's not the good one, Larry. He taught us that Wednesday night. But I told you in Wednesday night, I like it. All of you are set free by God. Tell the world. Isn't that great? All of you been set free by God. Tell the world. first realize I have been set free by God, because of that, I tell the news, the good news, the great news. Now, if you're going to tell good news to others, you have to first be enjoying it yourself. To enjoy it, first of all, you got to accept it. And if you're here today and you've not accepted that good news, we're going to give you an opportunity here in a little bit to accept what God is offering to you, and you can do it today. The only way I found to enjoy good news is on a day-to-day basis. Every day. I receive it once, not just once, but I receive it on a daily basis. The reason I have to to get it to be that way is I have to make a choice. I have to make a choice to enjoy it every day. There is the good news of Jesus Christ in my life, but there's also some bad news that comes in my life. All of us have bad news as well as good news. Anybody else have any bad news that come in their life? Maybe even this week you've had some bad news come in your life. We've got good news and bad news in our life, and it comes just about every day. The difference is I have to choose which one of those I'm going to focus on. I always tell people, life is kind of like a book. Every day you open that book and there's the good things and the bad things. You got to choose which side of the page you're going to read off of. And that's the way it is with our life. You got to choose what you're going to focus. Am I going to focus on the good news? Or am I going to focus on the bad news? And it's a daily choice that I make. I know some of us are facing bad news this Christmas. What do? Pretend that it's not there? No. You let the good news overcome the bad news. You realize that the good news is good enough that it will give you security no matter what happens in your life. The good news is good enough that it can give me hope no matter what happens in my life. The bad news you might be facing in your life right now shows you how good the good news really is. You don't ignore the bad news. You just don't let it be what drives your life. Whatever bad news you're facing, His good news is better. So you've got to let the good news take the high ground over the bad news, because His good news conquers whatever it is that has gone bad in your life, even to the point of death. Now, how do you do that? It's easy to talk about that today, but it's harder to live it on Monday. Do I let the good news be what drives my life, or do I let the bad news be what drives my life? And if I'll let the good news drive my life, then I will not be overcome by what the bad news is. Now, how do I make that work? The next verse talks about it in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 4. He says, be full of joy in the Lord always. As I say again, be full of joy. Here's the key phrase in that verse. Circle. In the Lord. You see, being full of joy is about relationship. It's about being in Christ. It's about having that relationship. You want to experience daily joy, daily good news, you connect to Jesus on a daily basis. That's where a lot of us fail. Experience the good news on a daily basis. Spend time with Jesus this month. I mean, even a few minutes can make a difference. I mean, you're going to spend a lot more time this month at stoplights than any other month of the year. Isn't that right? I mean, well, take that time and say, you know what, that's going to be my Jesus time. Every time I get to a red light, I'm going to stop and I'm going to think, Lord, thank you for being with me. And thank you, and help me not to get, overcome what I'm thinking right now. And help me to get through this month. And red light, God, you are there. Find cues in your life where you spend a few minutes with Him. By the way, you don't have to pray with your eyes closed. And if I meet you on the road, please don't be praying with your eyes closed. I mean, December's rough enough. But, pray to the Lord. Spend time with the Lord. Talk to the Lord. It'll be a better December than before than you've ever have, because the good news is about a person. You spend time with Him. And isn't that great when you get to spend time with people? Thanksgiving, we went home. We hadn't been home at my family side of the house in 8 years. And you forget how good it is to be around people that you love to be around. Isn't that true? You just forget that. Last night we had the opportunity, a little girl that we left Russia. She was 12 years old. She's living here in the States now. She lives in West Tennessee. She's married to a young boy that we knew back then too. He was actually the son of one of the missionaries that was with me in Russia. She married him, and she was coming through. She's going to Knoxville. She has her own business, and she's doing stuff and all this, and she had to go to some kind of thing in Knoxville. She said she's coming through, and we said, well, you need to stop. And so she said, I will. And so she came through, and I said, not only do you need to stop, you just spend the night with us. She spent the night with us last night. Hadn't seen her since she's 12 years old. Beautiful, beautiful girl. She now got 2 kids that are beautiful. And to see her, what great time it was. It made me feel really good because she was in one of the churches in Clean, Russia, where we were. We established a church there. And you always wonder when you leave the field, did you do any good? She's faithful to the Lord. She's faithful. She goes to church every Sunday. She's a part, active. She loves the Lord. She loves her family. She loves the church. She loves everything about it. And you think, man, she was 12 years old when we left. And here she is 34 years old now because she's the same age as Melinda. And you think, wow. And what joy it brought. We didn't get to see her very long. Well, what joy that brought. Why? Because we have a relationship. And we spent time together. And, that's the way it is. We need to spend time with the people that we love the most. We need to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength. But then you need to spend time with Him. It'll be better. In Psalm 107, verse 22, it says, with joy they should tell what He has done. Who in the world wants to hear somebody tell the good news with no joy? I'm not going to mention anybody's name here, but there's one little girl in this congregation. I love her to death. But I call her my Eeyore. She knows who I'm talking about. She's sitting here, and she's probably going to whoop me when after church services. I'll see her. One of these days, I'm going to pass out because I'm going to say, how you doing? And she's going to say, I'm great. Instead, but what she tells me every time I see her, she goes, I'm good. It's good. She's 15 years old. I'm tired. She tells me that all the time. I'm tired. I love this child to death. I tell her every time I said, I love you. But I said, one of these days you're going to break out and I'm going to pass out. Nobody wants to hear good news from me, or let me just tell you that, by the way. She's going to get excited about something one of these days. She has done it a few times, by the way. It's when she got excited about something. When we get excited about the good news that we have with us, people want to hear it. They want to hear. And I want somebody with joy in their life, with joy in their faith, the joy to tell what He's done, because you are experiencing that joy yourself. That's where you start. You enjoy it yourself. Then you need to make time to tell the good news. This time of year, it's hard to make time because there's so many things I got to make time. Galatians chapter 4 and verse 4 says, but when the right time came, God sent His Son, born of a woman. God sent Jesus into the world just at the right time. But oftentimes, me, myself included, I have a hard time finding the right time. Finding time to tell people the good news. Why is that? Well, because they're too busy. We've got too many other things going on. It's interesting, especially this time of year, Christmas time, is it seems like we cannot find time. Because we're going so many different directions. Look at what Jesus said. He came into the world for us. It's the exact opposite of what we often experience this time of year. He says in Matthew chapter 11, 28, come unto me, you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Now, this time of the year seems like it's the exact opposite of what He came to give. We bake, we write, we shop, we decorate. In the middle of all that, the kids are out of school. And then you party. If I'm going to have time to share the good news, I have got to make that time. Let me give you permission to do something today. Let me give you permission to do something different. Let's give ourselves the freedom in December to take some of the things out of our schedule. Red is a Christmas color. You know, we have a lot of red this time of year. Why not just get you a red pen and get on your calendar and mark off some of that junk that you've got on your calendar? Do it for two reasons. One, do it so that you can enjoy the good news this December like maybe you've not done it in a long time. Secondly, maybe you feel guilty about doing the first thing. Do it so that you have time to share it with somebody else. You know what Psalm 90 verse 12 says? Teach us to number our days. Recognize how few they are. Help me to spend time as we should. Isn't that interesting? You do not have to do what you did last Christmas. You had the freedom to change your schedule so that you can have the time to enjoy the good news and time to share that good news. That's what you need to be doing. And if you're ever going to share that good news with others, you're going to have to do it. You're just going to have to make the time. Now, how does that work? Well, I got to plan it. If I'm going to share the good news, I'm probably going to have to plan to do it because, again, I have so many other things. Most of the time, when you do good things, is because you've planned to do good things. Isn't that right? I mean, look at what happened when Jesus came. When the angel had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about. What if no one had made a plan? I mean, somebody made a plan. Let's go to Bethlehem. Let's go to Bethlehem. What if none of the shepherds had made a plan? What if the angel had come, made his great announcement, and the shepherds go, man, that was cool. Did you see that? Man, the sky lit up. The angel was there. He told us this great news. Wasn't that good news? Savior's come. All right, let's go back to tending sheep. I mean, if it had ended there, wouldn't it have been so much different? All those lights and everything. Let's just go back to tending sheep. What if they had done that? Just think of what they'd missed out on. They would have missed seeing Jesus. But they made a plan, a simple plan. Let's go to Bethlehem. Let's go and see. God tells us to make plans. He tells us that we need to make plans in our lives. Jesus said in Mark 16 verse 15, go everywhere in the world and tell the good news to everyone. Let me make some suggestions. Now before I do, think about this. The world needs to hear the good news. They will listen to somebody like you. Someone who is real, maybe a little nervous, but someone who's experienced something great in their life. You don't have to have all the answers, but you know Jesus and you know the difference that He's made in your life, and they will listen. If you'll tell them, don't tell them about all these facts and everything, just tell them what Jesus has done in your life. And if you'll do that, you'll make a difference. But maybe you need to do a few things. First of all, maybe you need to pray about it. Just pray. Pray for your family, friends and family. Make a list. Make a list of people that you would like to hear the good news. There might be one person on that list. It might be 10 people on that list. But make a list of those people. Make a list and take the time to talk to God about those people. When you stop at that red light, maybe you need to talk to God about that person you've got on your heart that need to hear the good news. Another thing, read to your kids. What a great time of the year to read to your kids. Make sure that you take the time to tell your kids the good news. Read Matthew chapter 2 to them, or Luke chapter 2 to them. A great way to do this is at bedtime. You can say, well, you know what? Okay, you can stay up another 5 minutes if you'll let me read to you. Because they want to stay up this time of year. Okay, I'll let you stay up another 5 minutes if you'll let me read to you. Not only is this good time for them, but it makes you stop and it makes you consider the good news and read the story. And at the end of your day, and you kind of end the day thinking, wow, how good is God? It'll do something for you too. And then third thing, serve someone. Jesus tells us what did He came? He says the reason that He came was to seek and save that which was lost. He came to serve and not to be served. What better time of the year to serve someone? You're not alone. Invite someone to worship service with you. Next week, We're going to be talking about it's time to capture the moment. A lot of people get so busy this time of year that they miss the moments because they're so involved in getting ready for the next moment that they don't take time to enjoy the moments that they have. And then, fifthly, give hope to someone. Find someone who's hurting that it won't be hard to do this time of year. I work ambulance service part-time, and I love it to be able to get out in the community and see the things in the community. But I'm going to tell you, this time of year, from Thanksgiving till the end of January, is the biggest time for, this is the time of great joy and glad tidings. More people commit suicide this time of year than any other time of the year. There are a lot of hurting people out there that this is not the favorite time of year. There are a lot of people out here may have lost a loved one or something, and this time of year really hurts. There's people who, their mates have left them and they're stuck, or their children are gone, or whatever. Find someone who's hurting and tell them the good news about Christmas. Jesus was born in the world to let hurting people know that there's hope. Interesting, again, that this time of year, some people feel the most hopeless. Share the hope of Jesus. People want to hear it. One more thing, and I'm going to share the good news. I need to trust God. You trust God because it's His news. Romans chapter 8 and verse 25 says this, but if we must keep trusting God for something that hasn't happened yet, it teaches us to wait patiently and confidently. In other words, when you go out here and you share this good news, don't give up. Wait patiently and confidently. Keep trusting and keep telling. Some of you will say, well, I've talked to somebody about it and it didn't do any good. They didn't listen. And I wondered about this 12-year-old child. It took 22 years for me to find out. Remember that you need to keep trusting. And you need to keep telling. Remember, there's your part and there's God's part when it comes to the message of the good news. We talk about it in our life groups. One of our criteria in the things in our life groups to remind everybody, there's our part and there's God's part. You do your part. You let God take care of His part. You just learn how to do your part and do it well. My part is to tell others. That's my part. Notice I said tell, not sell. You're a satisfied customer. You're not a salesman. You just tell what God has done in your life. God's part is the part that changes lives. Only God can do that. Don't think you can change anybody. It's not your job to change everybody. It's your job to tell them the good news. Let God do the rest. You do your part. Let God do His part. As you tell, pray that this will happen. Philemon chapter 1 and verse 6. I pray that as you share your faith with others, it will grip their lives too. As they see the wealth of good things in you that came from Jesus Christ. When they see what's in your life, they'll want it. If you've never accepted the gift of God, the gift of forgiveness, the gift of a new life, the gift of a relationship with Him, you need to do that. It is great news. I want to tell you good news of great things, of great joy. Would you bow with me real quick? Father in heaven, I just pray for each of us. I pray that this season we would enjoy the good news like we've never done before. I pray that this month we would tell the good news like we've never have before. I pray that this verse that we just read, I pray that as we share our faith with others, it'll grip their lives as it grips ours. As they see the wealth of good things that comes from you. We thank you for your good news. In Jesus, through Jesus, because of Jesus. Amen. Again, if you're here today and we can help you, listen, we got some good news. Jesus came. He died. He gave Himself for us so that we can have eternal life. He sent His Son to live among us. What great news. It's time. It's Christmas time. And it's time to share that good news. If we can help you, I encourage you to come as we stand and we offer the invitation.